I've gone long enough without an update. Let's go ahead and change that today. Arguably, this car plays a big role in my life, but it doesn't really see any updates on the channel. So today, I guess I'll just go ahead and touch on what's been done to it since I last updated it. I last updated it about 10 months ago, I believe. If you go down my channel, you'll see that I did update the car, and then I went through a little series of swapping the engine over after my first one started knocking, and I eventually just decided it'd be better to swap the engine rather than keep on pushing it. I don't know why the sun's coming out now, it's going to be too bright. But yeah, so I ended up swapping the engine, and if you did watch those videos, you'll see there was a couple updates in there. I did change some stuff, and it was touched in those videos, so if you want to watch those, I encourage you to go watch them. They are less talking, sort of, and more just doing the work and me filming the work, and that was that. So since then, a lot has changed. I'm going to discuss things in the order that they were done just to make it easier on myself to sort of follow along, because it is hard to follow exactly what's been done to the car and when things have changed. So I actually have notes on my phone to try and help me figure this out. The first thing I did since the last video in this car was a Tomei 1.5 way diff. That also includes the Z1 diff cover and solid bushings in there as well. The car already had solid bushings, but I actually bought this diff pre-built from another guy. It came with the 4.08 gearing, the Tomei 1.5 way, the Z1 cover, and solid bushings. So it was a sweet deal. I paid $1,500 for the whole thing. And if you've looked into building these diffs, you'll know that that whole kit right there will run you about $3,000 to get it built and have it thrown in. That made the biggest difference to the car. It made it so much faster and so much more predictable and just so much more aggressive. It made it so much fun to drive, and it completely changed. I really regret not doing it sooner. You don't realize how big of a difference putting an LSD in a car makes until you do it. Even being a rear-wheel drive car, you would think an aggressive LSD would just make it want to slide out more, but in reality, it's not that at all. It just makes it so much more grippy. It allows you to take so much more exit speed out of a corner. It is insane the difference the LSD makes. Highly recommend doing that. But throwing that in this car presented a new bunch of issues, mainly just because the diff was put together incorrectly, and I'll get into that. But before I get into that, we'll touch on the positive. I put the LSD in and then went to button willow. I brought a spare set of wheels. It was actually these wheels because at the time I was running the Enkai RPF 1s, and I actually had slicks on these things. So I ran the car for the first time on slicks. Surprisingly, it was able to take advantage of them. I was able to marble them up, get them fully heat cycled, do all that stuff. Surprisingly, also, they weren't even faster than the Bridgestones I was on, the RE71 RSs. Those were faster. Granted, the slicks are probably older, but this car was running on slicks. It looked sweet, and it actually performed really well. After that, the car was pretty understeery, and the only thing I can attribute that to is just because since the rear wheels are so locked together, the Tomei diff, if you guys don't know, is super duper duper aggressive, so it does not want to let go of the wheels. It keeps them locked. It almost acts like a welded. You could really feel the wheels unlock mid-corner. It's kind of a weird thing to get used to, and you definitely have to set the car up around it. Luckily, I have a bunch of casters, so it kind of helps out. Because if you make a tight radius corner and the diff is warm, it'll literally skip and chatter like a welded diff. If I find a clip, I might even just try and go film a clip. I'll show you guys right now. It's pretty ridiculous. So it made the car pretty understeery on corner entry, so I upped the rear spring rate 2K. So the rear is at a 7K and the front is at a 12K. Previously it was a 12K, 5K. I do plan on putting 13Ks in the front just to sort of even out the balance a bit more. Before, when I had this, I still have the softer sway bar, and if you'd see through corners, the car would dip the side down, but the rear would dip down really low. So the 7K springs in the rear helped out a lot, and honestly, the car's still very understeery, so I'm still trying to sort of figure that out, whether that be different spring rates in the front, maybe a stiffer sway bar in the rear, or different settings all around. The alignment is perfectly set up to make the car sort of oversteer, but also be predictable. It's at -3.5 degrees of camber in the front, -3 in the rear. Touch on that in a bit as well. 11 degrees of caster in the front, 0 toe, and then barely any toe in on the rear just to make it stable on high-speed tracks that I go to often. After that stuff, the car had an ABS failure. What had happened was the stub axle popped out of the rear diff, causing the ABS sensor not to be able to read and putting it into an ABS fault mode. Now, if you guys know these cars, you'll know ABS fault basically means the car is undrivable because it pretty much has a mind of its own. You can barely press the brakes, it'll lock all the wheels, it'll even hold them locked when you're not on the brakes. Super dangerous, and I found that out firsthand when I ended up crashing the car into a ditch. I was driving a back road, going the speed limit, just cruising through it to kind of skip one of the other side streets that I'd be having to take a bunch of stop signs for. And the car ended up locking all the wheels, sliding about 50 feet off a ditch. I don't know exactly what I hit. It was nighttime, thank God. Nothing really was damaged, but that is why you see a new bumper on the car, and that's why you see some damage in the hood. I'm guessing I hit some sort of small tree. When this all happened, it also took out the AC condenser, the radiator, the core support, I want to say some lower end stuff. Some of the rear plastics broke. Just, it's a whole deal. It was a bunch of stuff that went wrong all at once. That was sort of my eye-opener to not drive the car at all until I get it figured out, or at least try to get it figured out. It was a long process. After that happened, I decided I would take a little time to rebuild the car pretty much. So I ended up getting a new bumper, new tie rods, new solid rack bushings, a new radiator. AC ended up getting deleted, had a new under tray, and that was that. It was quite a little process to rebuild the car. I ended up getting new stub axle clips in the rear as well. The reason I deleted AC was it punctured the AC condenser, just like a tree or something, and I decided it'd be in my best interest to just get rid of it. It was going to cost money to put a new AC system back in it. Not a whole lot. I would just need a condenser and then recharge the system. So it'd probably be like 150 bucks to get AC back in the car. But I figured I'm at this point now where I'm just trying to go faster, and I really just want the car to be more capable. So taking out 30 pounds from the front of the car would help out a lot. So now there's no AC on the car, no lines, no anything for it. It did help out quite a bit. KBD Nismo V2, I've had this sitting around for a while. I didn't want to throw it on until it was painted, but then the crash ended up happening. My old bumper literally exploded, so it was kind of in my best interest as well to get that on. New under tray because it broke. Solid steering rack bushings because it was a Black Friday sale at the time. Ended up picking those up as part of the order. Got that in, new tie rods. Car was pretty much rebuilt and good to go, or so I thought. So I went to Streets of Willow. It was a successful day. No issues with the car, actually. It was still on Brembos, still all this stuff. It didn't really have any ABS issues, so I thought the car was fixed. Turns out that was not the case. Day after that Streets of Willow day, I ended up throwing on these R35 GTR front brakes. This is the Z1 track kit, but like I said, it's literally just R35 GTR calipers, rotors, pads with their adapter. They just take calipers, they remanufacture them, and label them as their own. The reason I went with this kit instead of a StopTech kit or anything else is because this is just cheaper to run. It's simple. A StopTech kit runs you $3 to $4 grand. This runs you 20, well, at my time when I bought it, it was also Black Friday. It ran me $2,300 with Hawk DTC 60s, so it was just a good deal. They're a 15-inch rotor. They do fit under 18s, not all 18s, so I did actually end up selling the RPF ones because they didn't fit under those. I have another set of wheels now, some Koenigs that do fit these. They're a little difficult to fit wheels for. They are definitely overkill, but so I found out recently, they're not quite enough in all cases, and that's pretty wild. The main reason I went with a big brake kit is because I was running the stock Brembos before, and they didn't have an issue stopping the car actually with the two-piece rotors and DTC 80s, or a more aggressive pad. They actually stopped the car fine, but the issue was I was going through pads like crazy. I was going through pads every 3 track days, and obviously that stuff adds up quick. Pads are like 400 bucks for just the front. The rears were never an issue, it was only the fronts. So these pads actually have, I want to say 3.5 track days on them. And I don't know if you can see in there if it's going to focus, but they still have quite a bit of life on them. They still have almost 10 millimeters of life, and I'm pretty sure they start off with like 11 or 12 millimeters. So that's the main reason I did this. It was just for longevity purposes. Kind of a dumb process to take for that. Like, yeah, my brakes don't last. Let me spend $2,300 on a brake kit alone. But honestly, it's paid off so far. Like I said, works out easy, and replacement parts are easy to find. These rotors are stock GTR rotors, so I can use any stock GTR rotor or replacement rotor. Pads are easy to find. They come on a bunch of like scat packs and stuff like that. This is a very common pad size for the 6-piston Brembos, and these Brembos have vented pistons in them. The rotor is a 2-piece floating rotor with directional vanes. It's just a solid setup, and it's been working out great for me. After throwing on the brake kit, I ended up going to Button Willow CW13 once again. This time, car had ABS problems, and that was not cool at all. So it actually ended up throwing me off. I ended up cutting the ABS fuse because this car is much safer to drive with no ABS than with a failed ABS system, because the car pretty much can't intervene. So I ended up doing that, but I ended up getting thrown off in one of the corners. Tried to correct the slide. I'll go through the video now. going off track in probably the worst spot possible. I fell like into a ditch, the car jumped out of it, and that broke my brand new Koyarad radiator. The fans ended up hitting it and slicing through the inner fins. So that day I kind of sat out like 3 sessions, ended up getting a radiator from O'Reilly's, going back out with a stock radiator in the car, and then slid the car to 110 at the final turn and decided to call that a day and stop pushing my luck. After that, I got the car back home and was kind of on another rebuild mode. Obviously, everything else is fine. Luckily, the KBD bumper, it's super flexible, so that was okay. The undertray, I just had to stomp on, flatten it out a bit. The radiator, I ended up putting JB Weld on the fins, and surprisingly, it's held up. It's been 3 track days since then. Hasn't been a problem, is not leaking. Super grateful for that because I literally just bought this radiator a month ago. Koyarads are not cheap, and I didn't want to spend the money on a whole nother one just because I went off track. After that, I faced a little bit more ABS issues. The whole reason I was having ABS issues with this car is because I bought the diff pre-built, so I wasn't sure exactly what stub axles it was supposed to have in it. If you guys know Z's, you'll know the rear diff has 2 different types of stub axles, different for open diff and original LSD. So what I got with the diff was 2 open diff stubs, but it was one 350Z stub and one 370Z stub, and the difference between those 2 is the spline count on the ABS tone rings. I put an open diff stub back in it, matched the spline counts to 46 splines, which is what's proper for the 350Z. Turns out the clips I had in it weren't strong enough so the axles would still pop out. I thought maybe it has the wrong stub axles in it to begin with, so I put LSD stub axles in it. After that, they stayed in for a bit and then ended up popping back out again. So I also decided to throw the open diff stubs back in it, see if that would help anything. Weak clips once again. So I ended up buying new clips more recently, threw 2 open diff stub axles in it with brand new OEM clips, which are way thicker than the ones that were in it before. Even though the ones that were in it before were OEM, they must have updated the part since 2003. And that was that. I mean, I haven't had issues since. It's only been 1 track day, but it was quite a hard track day, and I really have high hopes for this thing. The diff stubs are pretty stuck in the diff. If you try and pry them out, they take quite a bit of effort to pop out. Nearly impossible. You'd probably break the clip trying to pry the axles out, so I have good feelings about it. Hopefully it's fixed now. Since then, this car is running 370Z rear axles and wheel bearings. So those are a little bit longer than 350Z ones. No one really talks about this, but you really should do 370Z rear upper arms because it'll push out the wheels 5mm and give you that extra length you need to have the axles not be bottoming out into the diff. That's what I ended up doing. I did GK Tech spherical rear knuckle bushings and bushings in the upper arms. This car was on stock bushings up until then, so the rear end was pretty worn out. The shock bushings were bad and all the arms bushings were bad. So now the rear end is entirely spherical. Ended up doing a new alignment and putting a little roof wing on it that I had from an E38 BMW. Actually, it's for the little trunk lip, but it's rubber, so I just cut it down. I've always wanted a roof wing, never figured out which one to buy, so I just threw this on because I already had it and it was free. It looks all right. I'll probably end up getting a real one eventually, but it's kind of the look I wanted to go for since I own the car, was a roof wing and just a sleek rear end. Forgot to mention, along those little times, I also put an eBay exhaust on it because the ISR had a huge hole in the bottom of it and I couldn't bear driving it anymore. Since then, I actually fixed the stub axles like I said, and I went to Button Willow Circuit, the new track. That track is so high speed, so hard on brakes. It was super fun. I didn't have any issues with the car besides the fact that the front brakes actually overheated and faded with the DTC 60s. So the fluid was fine. It's running endless RF650 fluid. It's what I've been running in the car. I've never had a fluid issue, but the pads did end up getting overheated and I blew turn 1. Which is kind of insane. You'd think such a big rotor, so much heat capacity, you'd think it'd be able to hold on. I thought it would too. The car has no ducting right now because I didn't want to overcool the rotors or shock them with temperature. Turns out I'm going to need to look into that, or a harder, more aggressive pad compound, but it's kind of overkill when they are cool. It's running the GTR brakes in the front, stock Brembo's in the rear with the DTC 70, so there is a good torque split between the front and rear. It's still easy to drive. It's not like overpowering the front or anything. It's kind of interesting. I thought it was going to a little bit, but it doesn't, so it's actually cool to work with. The last circuit day, like I said, it's so hard on brakes. When I got off track my first session, all the brakes were smoking from the wheels, and it was kind of insane. It's peeling the paint off the pads, and did end up getting some micro cracks in the rotors. No big deal, just very interesting to see that it actually ended up did It actually did end up overheating the pads, even though I didn't think the front was ever going to be a problem again. Turns out, if you're pushing the car real hard, you're still going to have some problems. Even the rear brakes got so hot, they started to change color. Usually these are a bright gold. They ended up getting real dark. They looked more purple at the time. They kind of came back a little bit once they cooled off, but they certainly did change color quite a bit. The day of that button wheel day, I found a set of PPE long tube headers for sale, and those are something I've wanted to do since I bought the car, but because they're so expensive to buy new, it's like $3 grand if you option them out fully, I decided I wasn't going to buy them new. I was going to simply wait until I found a deal on Marketplace, and that's exactly what I did. I ended up picking up a set for $1,400, which is still expensive, but like I said, pretty much half off the real price. And now the car has, you won't be able to see them, but it does have PPE long tube equal length headers in the car. So now it's pretty much full bolt-on, full exhaust, full everything. All the intake stuff's done. The long tube headers are done. It sounds quieter on the highway, which is interesting. Definitely more power and more torque. You really notice it in those higher RPMs. It's a riot. It's super fun, and it makes all the right sounds. The day I threw on the long tubes, I decided I can't have $1,400 headers with an eBay catback. So I ended up buying a Greddy RS Race catback off of Marketplace. It sounds okay. I'm not a huge fan of it yet. I wish the tip stuck out farther, so I'm probably gonna end up getting a longer tip, and we're gonna see how I like it and if I end up keeping it. If not, I still have my ISR blast pipes. I just need to weld in a new muffler because of that fat hole. Like I said, it's unbearable to drive it. That's pretty much the story. Some other things I didn't really touch on, and just to update, because that's kind of the point of this video. Radium dual catch cans. These were done when I did the engine swap. Kind of changed up the intake setup a bit. Still runs the filter down here, but it's all a metal pipe now. This cardboard is to block the oil cooler because it will not warm up if I don't have it getting blocked. This car, if you don't block the oil cooler, the oil won't go over 130 degrees. So I do need to block it off. It's a 34 row set trap cooler. You can kind of see it. Now you can't even see it through there. With the car with no AC, I have it pushed up right against the radiator, so it does cool off really fast. And this is a cross flow radiator. The hot fluid comes in through here, cold fluid goes out through here. So having it right in front, there's not big of a temperature difference, so it actually doesn't affect the coolant temp at all. I have gauges to monitor that stuff. I have oil and water temp in here. It's pretty crazy. My last track day, the hottest I saw the oil was 230, and the hottest I saw the water was like 160 or something crazy, because it was a colder day and it is a higher speed track. But it was just super impressive to see that the car holds up fine. It's got no issues cooling. It's got no issues with power. It's a great car. Last thing I can think about comes to the interior. I ended up throwing the fire extinguisher in it finally. Ended up getting an extinguisher and a mount. And I also wired in a pretty much ECU brake signal delete to this switch here. When it's off like this, it means that the ECU doesn't know if I'm hitting the brakes. What that allows me to do is left foot brake or do burnouts. I don't do burnouts because it's a waste of tires for me. But the big thing was left foot braking. The car does suffer from pad knockback. It's a common thing because they have weak front wheel bearings. So going down a straight, it is in your best interest to give the left foot brake pedal a tap, just to make sure that your pads are going to be set whenever you get into the braking zone. And the problem in the stock car is when you're doing that, it'll cut power, so you'll pretty much lose speed down the straights by hitting the brake pedal. Now I can pretty much turn that signal off, so I can hit the left pedal as much as I want, and the car won't cut power because it doesn't even know I'm hitting the brakes, even though the brake lights and all that still work. So that's definitely a mod I think everyone should do if they're going to track these things, just for safety and to have fun if you did want to do some burnouts and just smoke out some of your tires. Definitely worth it. So that's pretty much what I've done recently. Besides that, I really can't think of much else that I've done to it. The car wears some extra battle scars now. It's sure got some stories to tell with all the things that have happened. Scratches down the side, you know. The hood and bumper are different colors. I wanted to wrap the whole car. I think I'm gonna end up just painting these things silver to match just for now, and then eventually wrapping it down the road. I was supposed to wrap it in December, but that's when all the crash stuff happened, and that's not even an issue. But at that point, changing the color of the car didn't really become a priority at all. I really just wanted to fix the car and get it driving good. Now I've gotten it there, so maybe I'll look into wrapping it, or like I said, just matching the front, because I do like the silver. It's an easy color to keep clean, and it's not basic. It doesn't really show damage too much, so it's kind of worth it to me. And if it's easy enough to match it, might as well just go ahead and match it. This video is not even close to a complete build list. If you want to actually see what's done to this car, I suggest going down to my other videos where I explain more of the suspension stuff, like what coilovers it's on, what sway bars it has, the engine mods, the engine mounts being solid, like all that sort of stuff. I really suggest just going down. This video was an update, not really a build overview, so that's sort of the point of that. I want to say that's it. I'm sure I'm leaving things out because I always forget stuff. The notes on my phone were just to kind of help me go along the process, but I want to say that's it. like I said, the car's been good now. It makes great power, it rips, it's reliable, hasn't had any issues, doesn't overheat. It goes through tires sort of fast. Not anymore, actually. These Kumos last quite a while. These have 3 track days on them, I'd say 3 or 4 track days, and they're still at probably 5 or 6 30 seconds of life. So really happy with that. The car's wearing tires now properly, it's wearing brakes now good, and it's running reliably.
Yeah.